Hello. For people that know me, you know that I like running experiments, right? And I love wheels. I love factory OEM wheels. I play with them, experiment with them. This vehicle is an Infiniti Q70, and that is the base model 18-inch wheel. I was curious, would that wheel work on the sport calipers, the Akebono calipers as we call them? That caliper. All right, so base model wheels on sport model calipers. I have an answer for you. The answer is the front is usually the biggest question because the front calipers are bigger. The rear ones, pretty much every base model wheel has been able to clear. So this is it. This is the base model wheel on Akebono calipers, and the wheel moves, but there is a little bit of contact, and sometimes it gets a little tighter. So yeah, I suppose in a pinch, but it's not a clean clearance. You can see that it's rubbing on the, whatever these guys did, this plastic dip, it's rubbing on the, whatever the coating on that caliper is. And I'm sure the back of the spokes are marked. If you, I can feel it. I can feel it with my nail, with my fingers. So I'll take the wheel off and we'll look at it again. But yeah, the answer is no, not directly. Maybe with a thin spacer, you might be able to. Probably even just 2 milli. You know what? I do have some thin spacers. I'll give it a try. Let me go ahead and remove these lug nuts and then let's see what happens. Yep, definitely got touched a little bit, or a lot, but that definitely got touched. And let's look inside here. Oh yeah, no surprise here, right? Just like we expected. It's corded just a little bit, just a little bit. You can feel it with my nail. You can hear it, right? Yeah, so at least we know not to try to use this wheel directly on Akebono calipers. Now I've got a bunch of different spacer thicknesses, or I've got a bunch of different spacers with various thicknesses. I've got a 3 over here. I've got a 5 as well. What I'm going to do is try the thin 3 millimeters and see what happens to that. Put it on there. It's barely there, and then see if there'll be any contact. I have results from our first test whereby I was using a 3 millimeter spacer, the barely there spacer. Barely there. Look at that. Barely there. So with this, all clear. Nothing touches, no impact at all. And let me poke the camera in there so you can see. You can definitely see where the groove, where the scratch came from. But right now, it goes over it with no contact at all. Yeah, it barely clears, but like I always say, clear is clear. It's not touching at all. So I hope this information helps somebody somewhere. I'm not 100% sure how many people will be in this situation trying to use the Akebono calipers with regular base model wheels, but one example I can think of is winter mode, right? Say you already have big brakes, you already upgraded, and you wanted to save your nice summer wheels. Yeah, you can go back to those without really causing too much of an issue. All you have to use is, as I said, 3 millimeter spacer. You don't need any special bolts or anything, and you still have enough engagement from the factory stud and lug nut. Also, I might be the first customer of this knowledge right here, of this knowledge base, because these tires are pretty new. They're in good condition. I think the DOT code is from June of 2022. And right now we are in March of 2023. So as much as I am considering upgrading my brakes, I'm not really ready to get rid of the tires yet. So I think I shall be reusing those spacers are cheap, right? You can do more things if you want them to be flush and things like that, but for what I wanted to know, I think I already have my answer. I put the wheel back on because I wanted to see what the clearance was like between the barrel and the caliper, because when I tried the other wheel, I felt like the wheel weights were impacting the caliper. And I think the answer is still yes. You're going to have to get creative with where you place your wheel weights. Talking of wheel weights, I became a little concerned because I knew that sometimes, depending on the balance situation, wheel weights might end up being placed in a location that might impact the wheel caliper. Because yeah, you do get external wheel weights sometimes, but I've seen more than enough factory applications with wheel weights on the inside, like this. Now, these are a lot of wheel weights on this one here. The placement is odd, considering it's right there over the TPMS sensor. But what I'm going to do is, I was lucky with the last wheel that I installed, had not a single wheel weight on it, but I'm going to try this because these factory wheel weights are a little on the thick side. Well, I guess they are standard. They're just shorter, smaller. But I'm going to try that and see. I just want to make sure that they clear the front caliper. Here's the new wheel, or rather the other wheel. I've got my 3mm spacer over there to standardize the results. And the wheel weights are at the bottom. So we have already proven that the spokes do not impact the caliper anymore, right? I've gotten enough clearance from the spacer that I'm safe on this side. Now I'm going to shift attention to that part over there to see how much clearance I get. Coming through. Yep, got snagged. Got snagged right there. So there is contact. If all I could say to this is, I suppose you could tell your tire technician to put the wheel weights all the way on the inside, you know, towards the front of the wheel. But then you really don't have control over that. The aftermarket wheel weights are usually much larger, so my concern is you really have no control over that. So I'm not telling you what to do, what not to do. It's always been a challenge with 18-inch wheels. First, 17-inch wheels will not even go on the rotors, right? And even you can see you don't have half an inch over there of clearance. So 18 inches is the minimum diameter for the wheel for any wheel that you need to clear the Akebono calipers. The catch is that purpose-built 18-inch wheels that are made to clear the Akebono calipers, usually have specs, offset, for example, spoke design, that lend themselves to convenient placement or non-interactions between the wheel weights and the calipers. So let's go the other way, but we already know how this is going to go, right? Hard stop. So I think we have an, whoa, I got tight. We have an answer here. I was trying to see if I could force it through, but nah, it's pretty stuck over there. So just something to note, if you're going to use 18-inch wheels with Akebono calipers, be careful, or rather be mindful about the placement of the wheel weights. If you have them on the inside like this, you might run into issues. Oh, that almost made it. That made it. Okay, got snagged somewhere. I suppose every time I do this, I'm knocking something off, which now begs the question, is your wheel balanced if you keep knocking these wheel weights off? But I'm sure if you keep running it, something is going to wear off eventually and you'll have clearance, but this doesn't look like ideal clearance over here. If you were ever curious about how much interference there was with the 3mm spacer, here you go. It's not too far, so maybe a thicker spacer might take care of the problem. Not really sure, but I also wanted to show these because I'd said that aftermarket spacers was aftermarket wheel weights were sometimes spec'd a little differently. So this is factory, to the best of my knowledge. This is aftermarket. Height is the same. So is this. This one seems a little. Height is pretty much the same, but as you can see, this one is much wider, and they're all 1/4 ounce. So if you needed to balance it in a similar manner, where you needed 2 rows, you know, I don't know. I really don't know. This part of the rim is a little bigger too. This one is a little closer, and as you can see, the spacing was such that this one was not in any danger of being hit with a caliper. This part where it was actually transitioning to go down, it's a little, can you see this? Straight then down, right? Can't really see the profile from here, but this part is where the impact happened, the interference. So yeah, just keep that in mind, and I really don't know how to solve it except don't put wheel weights on the inside. But what if you need to have them on the inside? What are you gonna do? Yeah, I don't know. Go this way? I really have no answer to that, but I hope this video does either save you some headache, or actually I've heard of people doing that, where they got wheel spacers for their base model wheels to use with their Akebono BBK upgrades, and then started having vibration issues to find out that wheel weights have been knocked off. So this is it. But maybe you could shave some material off the caliper. Who knows?